Summative exam. What does that mean? That means that you take an exam, you take a test. It's not required for you to have attended any classes. That's what we mean by summative exam. Now, let's take a look at what was Prabhupada's purpose in establishing the degree system. Jivan, read.
We have got so many books now, and I want all of my disciples to read them carefully. Soon we shall be instituting Bhaktisastri examination, and all Brahmanas will have to pass. So utilize whatever time you find to make a thorough study of my books.
We have so many books. However, Prabhupada felt that there needed to be some further enticement or inspiration for the devotees to read the books, particularly to read them thoroughly. Therefore, Prabhupada conceived of the idea of having examinations on his books. And this conception was first manifest in the late 1960s. Prabhupada was thinking of this, examinations on the books.
Every one of you must have one book and read it carefully and appear in the examination next Janmashtami. You will get designation Bhakti Shastri.
Okay, 1968. 1968. How beginning phases of the movement. Nam Shankirtan on the streets, book distribution, magazine distribution. And Prabhupada was considering then an examination on the books and the title, awarding the title Bhakti Shastri.
Anyone wishing to be initiated as a Brahmana will have to pass the Bhakti Shastri exam, and anyone wishing to take sannyas will have to pass the Bhaktivaibhava examination as well. Any sannyasis or Brahmanas already initiated who fail to pass the exams will be considered low class or less qualified.
This is letter to the entire GBC. On occasion, Prabhupada has written to individuals and mentioned the degrees, but actually this is a very official letter. It's the last comments that Prabhupada made on the degree program, and it's an extensive letter to all of the GBCs. And Prabhupada actually implying here that the examinations program is compulsory for all the Brahmins and all of the sannyasis. And Prabhupada, we can see from these statements, and I'll show you another one shortly, that Prabhupada, he felt that simply taking an examination was a sufficiently effective way of assuring that some learning and some assimilation, understanding of the information in the books is there. Prabhupada felt that an examination that will increase the effectiveness of the devotees in terms of their assimilation, understanding and preaching of the books. On several occasions, Prabhupada also meant to enhance the effectiveness in preaching will be examinations on the books. So Prabhupada felt that this system of simply taking a closed book examination had merit.
Answers will be in easy form and authoritative quotations will be given a bigger score. During the exams, book may not be consulted.
Okay, so pretty clear. Prabhupada's mentioning here the idea of a closed book test. You read, you prepare yourself, and then you come in the exam, you have to write everything from memory. And we can see here that authoritative quotations. So rather than specifically, this is a little slightly different, it's more of a thematic approach. That your presentation, your explanation, there'll be variety in the ways preachers deal with topics, but the principle of quoting the Shastra, that is essential, and that's what Prabhupada wanted to examine the students on and assess accordingly. And therefore they'll be encouraged to quote Shastra from memory, and higher marks will be given for that, and that's the full extent of the information or the guidelines that Prabhupada has given in terms of actually assessing the degrees. There's no additional information on how to assess candidates and how to. This is as much information as Prabhupada has given actually on the actual assessment procedures. So this is in Prabhupada's time, and we're fortunate to have in our association several devotees. Yesterday I was chatting with Kalakanta Prabhu, who received a Bhakti Shastri certificate from Prabhupada in 1977. Lakshmi Moni Mataji, she received a Bhakti Shastri certificate from Prabhupada. I think that was in 1968, I think she said, in Los Angeles. Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, he received the Bhakti Shastri certificate from Prabhupada here in Mayapur. After that, we see in the late 70s and the early 80s, there was no activity in regard to degree program. Then, in the late 1980s, in Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education, they revived the Bhakti Shastri program. And they began teaching it. Actually, there were already teachers there. The history of it, Burijan Prabhu, others were teaching the books in the Kartik seminar from beginning to end. Burijan Prabhu had a course, Bhagavad Gita Overview, which subsequently became Surrender Unto Me. So those programs actually were incorporated into the Bhakti Shastri program in the BIHE. And in that way, we established a system where devotees come, first in Vrindavan and in Mayapur, Bhaktivedanta College. They come and they study the books in campus and with classes. They begin in the beginning and they keep going until they've completed all the books. And then there's assessment as they go through. That's called formative assessment, as distinct from what we're discussing today, summative assessment, formative assessment, as you're going through, and you're assessed on your coursework. And basically this is how the program has grown over the last several decades in ISKCON, whereas the number of institutes has increased, and the courses were available, and devotees would need to go to that place and spend time there and take a course. So that was, and there's definitely so much effective education, and such programs touch the lives of so many devotees who've been involved in teaching those courses for several decades, and we've seen how wonderful they are, particularly in the Holy Dham, Sadhu Sangha Nam Kirtan Bhagavat Shravan, to study Shastra Mathura Bhash in the Holy Dham, in the association of the devotees, Sadhu Sangha, and chant the holy name. Shakal Sharan Shrestha e Pachanga Krishna Prem Janamaya e Pache Olpa Shanga. So powerful that it can awaken love of Krishna even if you do a little of those things. So those programs are very wonderful. However, we found that the Prabhupada's vision, where sannyasis would have Bhaktivaibhava degrees, Brahmins would have Bhakti Shastri degrees, and Gurus would have Bhakti Vedanta degrees, we found that vision actually was not being achieved. And in general, we found that the devotees who were taking the degrees were younger devotees, because they have less responsibility. They can, and oftentimes they would be sent for some basic training. Go to Mayapur and take a Bhakti Shastri course. So that became the utility, the effectiveness of the program. In fact, in the decades that I've been teaching Shastra, particularly the Bhagavatam, most of the students, I find it's the first time they're reading the books. It's the first time. They're reading it. They've done Bhakti Shastri. That was the first time they read the Bhakti Shastri books. And then they're going through the Bhagavatam. So that's a really good program, because people won't have the motivation individually to actually read. So having a course with teachers and other students, very supportive, and so it's very, very effective. However, in that environment also, we found that not so many leaders were so encouraged, because it was younger devotees, and they actually didn't require the type of learning exercises and the type of explanation that the younger devotees require. So in that way, we actually neglected leaders in the movement. We neglected senior devotees, and that we have a situation where most of the senior devotees don't have these degrees. So ultimately, that undermines the value of the whole program. Managers and leaders, they may feel that it's not so important. We never had that program when we were younger. So these are the challenges that we were facing in terms of actually trying to fulfill Prabhupada's vision, where gurus have Bhaktivedanta degrees. So just before the lockdown, actually, we began looking at what Prabhupada actually wrote, what his instructions were about the degrees, and we found that time and time again, Prabhupada was mentioning this system of examinations. And we felt that this again could be set up, particularly for leaders in the movement, to be able to take examination. Already they're reading the books or they're preaching, they're giving classes, and so such devotees, if we provided an effective examination for them, it would be very convenient and would help us come closer to achieving Prabhupada's vision. This is the predicament that many of leaders are facing. So we've tried to make things very convenient for leaders, and simply you can study 50 questions and then take an examination. 50 questions. So this is a system, this is a question bank system. Prabhupada didn't specifically mention question bank system, but we can see the logic of this, that in advance the students are given the questions. And these questions are public, and you can download them at any time from the Ministry of Education website, and they're completely open forum. Anyone can access these questions, even if you're not planning on taking the exam. The questions can be used for other purposes also, in general teaching. So for the Bhakti Shastri, you're given the 50 questions. We'll show you shortly some of the some samples of those questions to get an idea of their style. 50 questions, and then you can take as long as you like to prepare those. It may be argued that a person can memorize the whole. Well, even that's there's some learning there. Even if they can sit in closed book and they can. That's actually training. That person can give a lecture. That person can preach, especially if there's 50 questions. If you're able to answer 50 questions which are well prepared, then we feel that you're sufficiently qualified in Shastric knowledge to be able to be given the title degree Bhakti Shastri. So when you're ready, you can take as long as you like to prepare. When you're ready, then you'll sit the examination, and on the examination will appear 20 questions, randomly selected from the 50. Within those 20 questions, you'll also be given options. So you'll actually be required to write answers to 8 questions of around about 300 or 400 words in 4 hours. So, and in that way, we'll examine you. Any question? We're organizing the invigilator. The invigilator is coordinated by the Ministry of Education. When you contact us that you want to take an examination, you send us 2 people who you could invigilate your exam, and then those people there, we'll give them an oath of integrity that they can sign. And then we will send the paper to one of those 2 invigilators that you nominated. And then they will sit and invigilate, supervise while you're marking your exam, and then send your paper to the Ministry of Education. We have a team of teachers who'll do the assessment. Resubmission policy is also available. In the case that you don't pass the first time, there'll be qualitative feedback, comments on your paper, and sent back to you, and in that way it can take more time, prepare again, and then resit the exam. Probably a different set of questions, but from the same 50 question bank. Yeah, probably. Let's take a look at the Bhaktivaibhava program. We've divided 6 cantos. Keep in mind a comment that oftentimes is neglected in the courses where devotees are sitting and taking courses is that Prabhupada said that Bhakti Shastri is the 4 books, you're familiar with. Bhaktivaibhava is those books plus cantos 1 to 6. Bhaktivedanta is the Bhaktisastri books, cantos 1 to 6 and cantos 7 to 12. Bhakti-sarvabhauma is everything. So generally we find where the courses are going on that's not people, they're not going back and consolidating previous cantos and the previous Bhakti-shastri texts. They're not doing that in general because there's so much material each day to cover. So it's actually a lot easier for us to incorporate that aspect of the consolidation in the examinations, because we're asking them to quote from this section and the previous sections. So for Bhaktivaibhava, we've divided that into 2 exams, cantos 1 to 3, 32 questions. On your examination, you'll be given 15 questions from which you can choose from, and you'll be writing 5 questions in 4 hours. They're a little longer, those questions, so I'll show you some examples shortly, a little bit more deeper questions. And for cantos 4 to 6, like that. Any question? You can take as long as you like to get prepared. They're public, and there you can download them at any time. I'll show you the link shortly. You can download those at any time and take as long as you like. Even new devotees, so they can start preparing. There's like a open. I'll show you that shortly. I'll show you some questions, give you an example of that. Would you like to take a look at some random questions? There are different options that you have to take the Bhakti Shastri course. If you'd like to enroll in a center where Bhakti Shastri is being taught with teachers and with student handbook and with classes, scheduled classes, in that style of Bhakti Shastri course, most of the assessment is coursework, open book assessment that you submit as you're going through the sections. What we're discussing today is an alternative method for senior devotees who don't have time to participate in a lengthy course, and so it is an examination which is entirely closed book.
With references to specific Sanskrit words and paraphrases from at least 4 verses from Bhagavad Gita 2.11 to 30, explain the principles of Atma Tattva. Establish the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and activities with the reference to Bhagavad Gita 4.5 to 9, yad yada hi dharmasya, etc. Summarize Krishna's concluding instructions in Bhagavad Gita 18.55 to 72, Manmana Madamada Bhakto, etc. with reference to appropriate verses and purports.
These questions, as Rochelle Prabhu was inquiring about, these questions are assessing understanding and memory, and ability to recall, and some discretion, some vivek, some differentiation, because we're requesting them to select appropriate verses. And so those areas of learning, basic philosophical understanding, some vichar, some selecting appropriate verses, and some basic understanding of philosophical content. We also have thematic questions.
Establish in your own words the superiority of bhakti over the other yoga systems with reference to verses and purports, optionally from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 to 6.
So this is not a specific section. The previous questions were in a specific section, a few verses. This is several chapters, so it requires a different level of thinking and also some preaching ability. It has to be demonstrated here because you have to establish our bhakti is superior to the other yoga systems. So in addition to philosophical understanding, memory, we're also assessing their effectiveness as a preacher. Defeat
the impersonalist philosophy with reference to key verses from Bhagavad Gita and Ishopanishad.
Okay, that's much more broader. Bhagavad Gita and Sri Upanishads, that's a different level of thinking on a much broader overview aspect. And again, defeat, so preaching ability is also assessed there.
Explain appropriate
That's a mistake. Should say
practice of Vairagya, detachment, with reference to the Bhakti Shastri text.
Okay, this is personal application, this is also integrity, this is also application, and this is big Gyan. Gyan and big Gyan, how to apply in different situations, appropriate and inappropriate. Vairagya with a thematic approach, all of the Bhakti Shastri texts. Upadeshamrit, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bhagavad Gita, all discussing Vairagya, and it can be explained. So that type of question is a more advanced question. And the exam is in such a way that some of the thematic questions are there and some of the general content questions are there, and you'll be assessed on them all. And in all cases you have options, you'll be given options. Several thematic questions will appear on the paper. Like to take a look at some Bhaktivaibhava questions. Can you read for us, Jibon?
Srila Prabhupada begins his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam with the statement, "We must know the present need of human society. Explain the present need of human society and how Srimad Bhagavatam can fulfill it. Give reference to Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1st in your response."
This is actually, we're assessing the missionary value, how Srimad Bhagavatam can contribute to society and the problems society is facing at large. So it's a deeper question than what we were previously showing.
Explain Vasudeva's dissatisfaction and discuss how Sri Narada's subsequent instruction to him are important for the Krishna consciousness movement. Give reference to Canto 1st, Chapter 4 and 5th in your response.
Okay. A lot of material, a lot of content there, and it's a question of assessing deep learning, the relevance of that section of the Srimad Bhagavatam for our movement and the future of our movement.
Draw general principles from the example of Diti and Kashyap Muni I described in Canto 3, Chapter 14, which are important for Krishna conscious Grahastha life and Krishna consciousness in general.
So the questions actually were, this is actually what the purpose of Board of Examinations is. We have Board of Examinations, and we have several very experienced teachers, Hanumat Prashak Swami Maharaj and others, Yodanandan Swami Maharaj, Bhakti Prabhav Swami, senior preachers, experienced Vaishnavas, who are simultaneously very learned in the Shastra. His Holiness Hanumat Prashak Maharaj is a PhD. So we worked on questions. Sometimes we spent 10 minutes more, 10, 15 minutes on one question, the wording, considering that probably these questions for all of Prabhupada's books, the question bank, probably won't be done again for quite some time, perhaps decades, perhaps centuries. So we're establishing these questions now. Of course, everything can be updated according to the requirements as we're editing and updating things. But yeah, we put a lot of work into writing these questions, and oftentimes that's the challenge that teachers, the teaching courses, find, is how to do the assessment. Oftentimes, regularly, I'm receiving requests from teachers, "Oh, can you give the questions? You know, what are the questions?" It's hard to write good questions. And even when we were preparing the questions, we were drawing from whatever sources who were teaching and institutes, and we were drawing whatever they had available. And actually, we found that we were quite disappointed, actually. And we pretty much had to start from scratch with a whole team of qualified people to write questions that were more effective in ensuring learning. Now, these questions that we're sharing with you here, these are, as we clarified, these are examination questions for a closed book examination. We're sharing that with you today because that's the topic of this presentation. Actually, we've prepared a whole set of questions which can be used for those who are teaching the course. We've prepared the usual chapter-by-chapter tests, 15, 20 questions on each chapter. We've prepared the open book coursework questions, and for all the Bhakti Shastras and for the Bhaktivaibhava. After doing that, then we went back and wrote the these examination questions for the senior devotees. So these are written after already writing several other categories of questions on the same topics. Any questions? We'll show you that. Yeah. So accessibility, all of these developments are fostered by the Ministry of Education, who actually is responsible for the administration of the degrees. And as I mentioned, we're working in the board, which is actually responsible for writing the questions, but all other aspects of accounts, records, certification, etc., is all the responsibility of the Ministry of Education. And we have a team. In recent years, we were able to digitalize everything. So now you can get your certificates digitally from you can contact the office and the certificates are all sent out digitally. And here's where you get all that information. If you go to the ISKCON Ministry of Education website, and you'll see the tab at the top that says Shastric Degrees, and when you click on that, you'll see locate an exam center. That's where the different places, North America, South America, Europe, India, whoever is registered with the ministry who's offering their courses, you'll get their information there. Now, Study and Teach is another program which we've presented in previous ILSs. That's a program where you like to study. You're not going to take a summative exam, but you'd like to teach. You're a preacher, and you already have people that are quite inclined to listen to your lectures, so you can go through the whole Bhakti Shastri course, having yourself not completed Bhakti Shastri, or Bhaktivaibhava, but you can register with the Study and Teach program, and you can yourself study and teach your students, and we will organize your assessment. The Ministry of Education, with our team of assessors, will organize your assessment, and thus you'll be qualified to assess all of your students. And actually this program we encourage a lot, even more so than the summative exams, because it's important for leaders to be regularly studying Shastra and using that as the forum of inspiring and leading the community through the study and presentation of Shastra. So we're encouraging that program a lot, Study and Teach program, and then the summative exams program, which we're presenting to you today. So when you click on that link, Summative Exams, you'll get there's a general orientation on the program, like what I'm presenting to you today. Also, you'll find all of the question banks. This is open material. Anyone can download these. You can download the question bank. As you can see, the summative exams are completed up to Bhaktivaibhava, and we're working on the Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma exams. And so much material is there, also uploaded for your study guides, the essay writing tips, sloka memorization aids, and a compository of different preachers' lectures on Bhakti Shastri and Bhaktivaibhava, which are also a resource that we've made available for you, and other additional miscellaneous resources. Yes. No, they're fixed. Yeah, we just showed you that they're public. That's what a question bank means. You get the questions, you prepare, you study. When you're ready, you take the exam. The questions won't change by the time you're taking your exam. Yes. Yes, study guides, audio-visual lectures, all under Learning Resources tab on the Ministry of Education Shastric Degrees section. Yes, yeah. There are some guidelines there for the Study and Teach, which you can see when you go to that section there, Study and Teach. And but yeah, we can accommodate your because as we began, the whole point is that it's not simply, our purpose here is not simply to award degrees and keep track of those who have the degrees. Our purpose is to encourage devotees to take deeper study of Srila Prabhupada's books. So therefore, that has to be kept in mind. And there may be circumstances that people can only, there's certain circumstances it's difficult for them, so we're trying to accommodate that so that you can read Prabhupada's books and in that way achieve the purpose of the degree program. Which perhaps without the incentive of getting a degree and being able to award that to your community, it may not be studying the books so seriously. But devotees like the degrees, and many administrative responsibilities in our movement require the degrees, just like many of our initiating spiritual masters are expecting the disciples who take second initiation to have Bhaktisastri. So therefore, that induces people to read the books more carefully, which is the whole purpose of the degree program. There are general lectures on the Bhakti Shastra and the Bhaktivaibhava. Yep. We're assuming leaders are able to put all that together. That's why this facility is given for leaders, because they understand. And they have intelligence, and they're able to understand what the question is asking, and they're able to ask it. That's why you're a leader, because you have vision. Now, eligibility, the question of eligibility. Prabhupada disciples, GBCs, gurus and sannyasis, they can take this test any time that they so desire. And others who are not in those categories require an endorsement from an ISKCON authority if you happen to be in a senior leadership or preaching role for more than 10 years, and recommended if you're above 40 or 50 for Bhaktivaibhava, recommended. And you can get an endorsement from any of these different ISKCON offices. Yeah. I mean, it's not, these are general guidelines, and basically we're looking at the endorsement. The endorsement, if your local leader, the GBCs, or the people that feel that this is, and in many cases is the only option temple presidents would have to take, they're not going to be able to go off and take a course, and the course is not available in their temple. So better you take the summative exam, and then you can provide courses in your temple, which you can teach, and qualify other people to teach. We want to see, as soon as possible, the Bhaktisastri Bhaktivaibhava degree programs being taught in every ISKCON center as a standard program for everybody who comes in many, many different ways, to new people, to temple residents, in all different ways. That this should be a substantial, a predominant aspect of our temples, that the books are being studied and the degrees are being awarded. Samahatma Sudulabha, not that you rarely find someone with a Bhaktivedanta or a Bhaktivaibhava degree. Temple presidents should be there, Bhaktivaibhava, Bhaktivedantas, temple presidents. Prabhupada said, as we mentioned, everything is digitalized, so you'll be getting degrees, you can have them all sent out, even if you're online courses, you have people in different places in the world that get their degrees online. And then these are some developments that we've been working on in the Ministry of Education over the last couple of years. Any questions? There's so many courses, but these are the degrees that Prabhupada specifically mentioned for his books. Yes. You require the endorsement, and you require to be in the category of a senior person, and you require the endorsement. It's just that the age thing there is just to give you an idea that it's not meant for brand new people. Someone that's already been in the movement for a decade or so and is a senior person, and not others, we recommend that they take a course. We recommend they take a course. So that's why the age is there. It's not meant for newcomers. says recommended. That means not strictly enforced. See on our website, it's all there, and they can just it's upload a letter. Yeah, I mean, one person can be a second initiated Brahmin, so you only got to get it from someone who's reasonably got a zonal or something. You just got to get a letter from somebody, and you can get it and upload it onto the website, and the application form is all embedded in the website, and degrees are issued digitally. Now, to give you a little bit of a perspective on the developments that these concepts have helped us produce in the last couple of years. Now, since 1995, as I mentioned earlier, there were Bhaktisastri degrees. You can see in ISKCON Juhu, in the memorial of Sridhar Swami Maharaj, you can see his Bhaktisastri degree, 1977, signed by Srila Prabhupada. So there are Bhaktisastri degrees. I'm not sure His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, if he still has the certificate, but anyway, he received one. There are some, but from 1995, that's for the time that we actually began keeping records of the database of graduates. So from 1995 to 2020, in our movement, we had 8,700 Bhaktisastri degrees awarded, 240 Bhaktivaibhava degrees in that 25-year period. And the last 2 years has doubled as a result of the developments that we're working on now with the summative exam, study and teach, and the digital certificate system. So we've more certificates in the last, more than double, more certificates, more graduates in the last 2 years than in the previous 25 years. So we picked up quite a bit of momentum in this regard. Also centres where it's available, where the courses are available in terms of taking a course. In 2020 there were 50 places in the movement out of 600 or 700 centres. 50 of them were providing Bhakti Shastri and 7 were providing Bhakti Vaibhav. And in the last couple of years we've close to tripled that. And so many more places are providing Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhav. As we mentioned, you can see where they are. They're listed on the Ministry of Education website. However, we're still far short of the vision that Srila Prabhupada had, where he wanted all of his followers to have Bhakti Vedanta degrees. So therefore, we encourage leaders to take advantage of the summative exam system, and in that way we can further come closer to Prabhupada's vision, where the senior-most leaders in the movement have the degrees, and in that way, all through the community and devotees, they'll all be more inspired when they see the leaders taking these examinations and getting the degrees. We'll be seeing in a couple of days His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj will be receiving his Bhakti Vaibhava degree here at the ILS. He's very inspired to set the example, and he's studying and he's taking exams, and he's about to get the Bhakti Vaibhava degree, and he's already working on the 8th canto, heading toward the Bhakti Vedanta degree. So we would encourage you all to take advantage of these facilities, study Prabhupada's books, and get the degrees. Yes. We have some suggested lesson outlines, which were developed by the VTE quite a while ago, but they're there. Suggested lesson outlines and suggested schedules. But yeah, the books are there. You could say the basic curriculum is the books. To teach, the Ministry of Education is developing other programs of teacher training, some online programs, and also encouraging teacher training. We recently set up a teachers board to further develop that, but that needs to be developed further. teacher training, assessment training. We have some rudimentary assessment training for the team of devotees who are assessing these summative exam candidates, some rudimentary assessment training. But a lot more can be done in terms of providing resources for teachers. And if you're inspired to contribute to this field of service in Srila Prabhupada's mission, as Krishna himself mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that Ye idam paramam gujjam madbhakdeshu abhidashiti. Those who explain these teachings to madbhakteshu, to my devotees, bhaktim mayi param kritva. Bhaktim mayi, devotional service to me, param kritva. They're doing the topmost level of devotional service to me. Mami vaishashi ashangshaya. I want to tame me without fail. So we would encourage you to participate in this area of systematic shastric study in the service of Srila Prabhupada and become dear to Sri Krishna. Na chatasman manusheshu kashtir me prikritam. He's the dearest. You mentioned Bhaktivedanta College in Radhadesh, and here we have Mayapur Institute, we have Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education, and many other. Parabhakti Prabhu here from Italy. It's the villa where the center is called Villa Vrindavan. The course is available there. Such they're called examination centers. They can award the degrees. They can also facilitate the summative exams. They can do that. You can do that with your center, and they will arrange the invigilation and arrange the assessment and contact us, and you can get your degree in that way. So these facilities are made available through the Ministry of Education directly and through all of the authorized examination centers that are authorized by the Ministry. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.